Welcome to Smash Fiction, where we pit two or more fictional characters against each other in a battle of strength, or wits, or not quite yet being too old for this shit, and see who would win. This week, Rush Hour's Yang Lee and James Carter versus Hot Fuzz's Nicholas Angel and Danny Butterman. Dear Pen Pal, I tell ya, when I first got the job as a hired muscle for none other than infamous crime lord Mr. Lobotomy, I thought I'd made it. I mean, the guy's a legend, right? Started off as a master computer hacker / espionage agent gone rogue. This guy would target corporations, militaries, government, you name it. Take their deepest, darkest secrets and then either sell it on the black market or capitalize on it himself for a big payday. That's where he got his name from. He'd practically steal the knowledge right out of these guys' heads. And Mr. Lobotomy's good at his job. So good he's been able to turn what was formerly a one-man operation into a worldwide criminal network. And because he always knew what the big shots of the world were up to, he could always stay one step ahead of any kind of legal reprisal. To top it all off, he's got this swanky secret headquarters right in the middle of Sydney, Australia, so I get to go down to the Opera House on the reg, and you know your boy loves his opera. I tell you, Pen Pal, working for Mr. Lobotomy seemed like it'd be the sweet life for sure. But now it's looking like that life might be coming to a close. See, Mr. Lobotomy likes to go for high-value targets, so while he targets everybody, he tends to go for China, the United Kingdom, and the United States most of all. Well, it's looking like those three nations have had it up to here with his whole setup, because we just got word that 4 hotshot renegade cops have been spotted right here in Sydney asking questions about the boss. First up, we got these 2 British cops, Nicholas Angel and Danny Butterman. They're from some little podunk village called Sanford, Gloucestershire. Guess they're part of the police force, or service, there. Had some whole deal where they figured out some kind of secret cult in their town or something. Seems like they're serious about keeping their home safe. Then there's this cop from LA, James Carter, and another cop from Hong Kong, Yang Lee. I don't know how these guys ended up knowing each other, but it sounds like they've worked together before on a few different cases, and they're eager to make sure that Mr. Lobotomy don't threaten either of their countries no more. All 4 of these cops have gone way off the reservation on this one. None of their countries have signed off on their operation here, which meant that even the boss didn't know they were coming until they were already starting their investigation. This means that we can't risk moving the boss. We just gotta keep him where he is in his secret lair beneath Sydney Tower and try to make sure that these international bozos don't manage to track him down and arrest him. From what I hear, though, we may have some good news for once. It sounds like the 2 sides ain't exactly getting along. They tried to at first, but within the first 10 minutes, Butterman had spilled ice cream all over Lee's new suit, and Carter kept making fun of Angel's accent. Things kind of escalated from there, and the 2 sides parted ways, swearing that they'd be the ones to get to Mr. Lobotomy first. We're gonna do our best to stop him, of course, but I can't help but wonder, which one of these unconventional buddy cop duos will be able to punch, sneak, shoot, snoop, drive, and explode their way to the heart of this criminal conspiracy first? That, ladies and gentlemen, was a letter I received from my pen pal just days ago. That's right, I was the pen pal all along. And sadly, despite some intensive soul-searching, not to mention a lifetime of pondering which fictional characters would be able to beat each other in various contests, I was not able to come to an answer to the question he posed, which is why I, Dan Mulcairn, will be your judge this week.
I think that was our first epistolary intro.
Also, Dan, don't you think you should be handing this information over to the proper authorities?
Yeah, really, what are you doing here?
I think we are the properest authorities for this particular issue.
Yeah.
Representing Rush Hour are Kit Mulcairn.
Wipe yourself off, Brits. You're already dead.
And Claire Mulcairn.
Can't seem to get the volume right on these headphones. Did one of you mess with my settings? Don't you ever touch a trans girl's headphones.
Don't do it. Don't fucking do it.
Representing Hot Fuzz are Miles Schneiderman.
So, Bob, tell me a little bit about these Rush Hour guys we're going up against. Have they ever fired 2 guns whilst jumping through the air?
No.
Have they ever fired 1 gun whilst jumping through the air?
No.
Have they ever been in a high-speed pursuit?
Yes, they have.
Have they ever fired a gun whilst in a high-speed pursuit?
No!
And Megan Bob.
Bob and Miles have to win for the greater good.
The greater good.
In order to determine who goes first this week, I asked the advocates to reenact some of the moments from other buddy films their actors have appeared in. Team Rush Hour decided to go for Shanghai Noon, and just got back from some rollicking fun doing kung fu on horseback, playing drinking games in bubble baths, and breaking out of a jail cell by peeing on their own clothing. Team Hot Fuzz still haven't gotten back from their recreation of Shaun of the Dead yet, but I feel like...
Oh no!
Oh wait, I'm just getting word that Team Hot Fuzz was killed and eaten by zombies. Why does this always happen whenever I judge matches?
Wait, does that mean Miles and Bob right now are zombies?
Anyway, Team Rush Hour will be going first, followed by the reanimated corpses of Team Hot Fuzz.
Oh no!
Team Rush Hour, I'd better understand the words that are coming out of your mouth because they're, your opening arguments.
As we all know, Jackie Chan is one of the greatest stuntmen and martial artists of all time. He currently holds the Guinness World Record for most stunts by a living actor. But if you watch the outtakes for the Rush Hour movies, you realize that the mind-melting stunts that he performs, dodging the undodgeable, slipping through the unslip-throughable, climbing things that man was not meant to climb, these stunts require, understandably, dozens of takes. I get that this is a bit of a weird argument, but bear with me. His character, Chief Inspector Lee, with no planning or preparation, can regularly execute stunts like this perfectly on the first try. So Jackie Chan, who is possibly the real world's best living stuntman, has to try dozens of times to do something that Inspector Lee can do in one take every time.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Starting off this way, are we?
It's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like that.
Let's do this.
Strap in. But the greatest strength that Lee brings to these action scenes is not only his athleticism, but also his quick thinking and creativity. When he has a problem, he has the ability to transform whatever unlikely objects happen to be nearby into the perfect tool for solving that problem. Watching him with this lens has actually inspired me to make a new product that I'd like to take this opportunity to unveil. I'm calling them Inspector Lee Action Dice. Much like sex dice, you roll them to get a task that you have to perform, and then a tool that you have to use to complete that task. Let's see. Sneak into the Chinese consulate while it's full of FBI agents on high alert using a steering wheel that you have been handcuffed to. Let's do it again. Deflect a dagger that is being thrown at you while you are lying down using a nearby magazine rack that you have just picked up with your feet. Break out of bondage using your mouth. Whoops, looks like I accidentally included my regular sex dice here in that last roll. But that was also a thing that Lee did. It doesn't come up as often, but Lee's skills as a detective are no less impressive. He is no doubt far more experienced than Angel or Butterman, given that the two of them are both rank-and-file officers who have yet to even achieve the rank of detective, a feat that even Carter could manage, whereas Lee is the chief inspector, making him the second highest-rated person in the Hong Kong police force. He shows a knowledge of the criminal mind unparalleled by anyone in the FBI, when he is the only one who is able to figure out that if the police try to raid Tsang's warehouse, they are going to end up in a trap. Lee also possesses one final hidden talent, and that is that he can appeal to the humanity of others, even hardened criminals, and convince them to help him simply because it's the right thing to do. After Carter fails to persuade explosives dealer Clive Cobb with his underhanded trickery, Lee takes him aside and shows him a photo of the kidnapped girl and tells him, "I don't want her to die." Clive then gives them the information they want. We all know that Carter had those underhanded renegade powers, but who knew that Lee had the ability to Paragon penance stare a dude who sells C4 to terrorists into being a decent human being? Compare this to the supposedly competent half of Hot Fuzz. What does Nicholas Angel really do that's all that impressive? He has way better weapons and armor than anyone who he's fighting against, which he is not guaranteed to have in this scenario, and the people he is fighting are largely untrained townspeople, over half of whom are old or out of shape, and he only fights them in groups of like 2 or 3 at a time, and he often has as many as 4 other officers with them, all of them dressed in full riot gear. Also, there's this bit when they show up to the supermarket and someone asks Angel what's the plan, and he tells them to wait, and he runs into the supermarket alone and then gets thrown out through a window by Michael seconds later. And so Nicholas decides he's going to fight Michael by himself without a weapon, and he just sends the rest of the crew into the supermarket without him, when they all could have just teamed up against Michael and then gone in together later. And speaking of that fight scene and his later fight scene with Skinner, twice in this movie, Nicholas gets into a hand-to-hand fight, and all he really does is stand flat-footed and throw throw punches and shove his opponent around a little. And both of these fights end when Angel does nothing and his opponents slip on something and injure themselves. Hoo boy, that's some white knuckle action there. They couldn't even come up with a way for Angel to beat an aging Timothy Dalton in a straight fight. That would have strained the verisimilitude too much.
Couldn't beat Timothy Dalton at any age.
Inspector Lee could have beaten a couple clowns like them at the same time with his hands tied behind his back. Like that one time when he literally beat two dudes at the same time with his hands tied behind his back. And keep in mind, action is not the only thing that Angel has to do in this match. He also has to do some detective work. And remember, he is not a detective. Again, quite literally, Angel's job is driving around and looking for lawbreakers. He has never been put in charge of an ongoing criminal investigation. The only time that Angel attempts to do the detective thing, it does not go well. He spends the first 60% of the movie putting together this elaborate theory about how Skinner is killing people to try to gain control of this valuable piece of land where a new highway is going to be built. And guess what? It's completely wrong. For you see, the downside of having a laser focus is that you have no peripheral vision. When he is working on a case, Angel's mind can't relax enough to consider the possibility that it might be wrong and let in new information. Once he settles on a theory, he searches for evidence to confirm it and does not consider alternatives. This makes you a very bad detective. But his failed attempt to arrest Skinner is, believe it or not the only time that this theoretically not at all loose and in fact very well secured canon shows very poor judgment. The dude attempted to arrest the entire neighborhood watch at once by just walking into one of their meetings with no backup and no weapon, and then he just tells 12 people that they're all under arrest and they need to come with him. Now, I get that people in England might be more polite as a general rule, but expecting that level of civility from a criminal that you are arresting is so naive that it makes Danny Butterman look worldly. Whether or not they were using their jackets to zipline away from an explosion, or using a French flag to hang glide away from a triad hit squad, Inspector Lee and Carter are constantly doing things that would make the aforementioned Danny Butterman weep if he ever saw them, because they are oh so beautiful and oh so beyond the level of reality that his film is working in.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Claire got to talk about Lee, so now Kit's gonna have to try and make Carter sound like he could detective his way out of a Chinese takeout bag. Well, listen. I know I got the dumpus. For your information, I asked to represent James Carter. I know he's a dumpus, but our dumpus could kick your dumpus's ass at solving crimes and literally. From the very beginning of the very first Rush Hour, Carter is already a detective of the LAPD. Not some beat cop in a crime-free village whose own fucking daddy was the main bad guy the whole damn time. There's always a rich old white man involved. Carter is a confident, fast-talking, loose cannon, but goddammit, he gets results detective. Before he meets Inspector Lee, he was out there bamboozling explosives dealers, making and meeting with criminal contacts, and solving crimes all on his own. After meeting Lee, Carter only gets better and winds up filling out the gaps in Inspector Lee's own amazing repertoire of skills. While Lee has mastered several actual martial arts, Carter is basically the social equivalent of a drunken boxer. There, I said it. He can use his fast talk with the finesse of a lockpick or the stunning force of a battering ram, all while leaving you thinking that he has no idea what he's actually doing. And you'd be wrong. His nervous chatter gets criminals to let their guard down around him long enough for him or Lee to disarm them. Through sheer confidence and quick talk, the man can infiltrate secure places and get to the people he needs to speak to.
I'm gonna throw up. Excuse me.
I am not gonna let you forget the time he entered an airport, somehow got his hands on an airplane mechanic uniform, snuck onto Lee's plane, and convinced the steward to tell the pilot that the left engine was all fucked up so the plane wouldn't take off and he could talk to Lee. I will not. And when the situation calls for it, he turns his mouth up to 11 for a full-blown distraction like the casino scene in Rush Hour 2. Carter purposefully kept all security's eyes on him, allowing Lee to stealth into the money-counting area, or rather the money laundering area. Even his flirting has proven useful. He's flirted with women who have, on more than one occasion, been important to their investigations. I mean, I guess statistically speaking, right? You're gonna find the one, right?
When you hit on everyone, yeah.
I wasn't gonna say it. I appreciate you making that rebuttal point for me.
Law of large numbers.
Hey, yeah. Don't hurt.
Pitch rolling yaw, baby. Pitch rolling yaw.
And that's another thing Carter's got heaps of the Butterman don't. He's got that detective's intuition. He knows what somebody being shady looks like. He knows when to shadow a suspect. Meanwhile, Butterman still has to be convinced after several horrible deaths have occurred that he should be suspicious of people, like a little. At least a little. When Carter and Lee get separated in Rush Hour 2, they are both so good at investigation that they both wind up on the same crime yacht by following their own leads.
Yeah.
If Angel and Butterman get separated, Angel's not going to see Butterman's ass until he checks every pub in Sydney. Lastly, Carter can actually kick some ass. I wasn't playing when I said he could kick Butterman's ass. I mean, Mima could probably kick Butterman's ass, but Carter is no whinging soft boy. In Rush Hour 1, Carter and Lee beat a room full of dudes who have guns. That's in 1. Between the second and third movie, Carter actually learns enough kung fu to beat 6 henchmen on his own while Lee was busy fighting his brother. He said he was learning kung fu, and as someone who's watched the first 2 films, you're thinking, yeah. But then you actually get to see Carter kick ass and take names. He also punches out 2 dudes with 1 swing, which is, what? so how is Butterman gonna help Angel when shit goes down and they haven't got any firearms because they're still waiting on their Australian gun permits? You know Carter can get together the underworld contacts necessary to buy guns if they need them. But Lee and Carter can kick a lot of ass without guns, so whatever. Oh, by the way, even when Butterman's got a gun, he ain't shit. Butterman's big win was when he defeated the evil doctor by dropping his gun, which is what the doctor told him to do, causing it to fire at the dude's foot. That was an accident, and you know it. Don't feel proud. Butterman assists Angel about as much as Filthy Casuals assist a pro player at esports. All right, I said it. While Angel is busy playing nanny to baby Butterman, Lee and Carter will be rounding out each other's detective skills, catch the crook, and dance away in victory to the funky sounds of Edwin Starr's War. Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm foaming at the mouth right now.
Well done, Team Rush Hour. I particularly enjoyed the Ghost Rider reference inside the Mass Effect reference inside the Rush Hour reference. I love me a good argumentative turducken. So. Team Hot Fuzz, have you ever delivered opening arguments whilst jumping through the air?
I mean, not yet, but in a minute.
The Hot Fuzz team of Nicholas, Angel, and Danny Butterman will touch down in Australia. G'day, mate. Or should I say possible suspects? Danny will get the requisite cornetto. Then first off, Nicholas will actually want to get in touch with the local force and look at the existing evidence, as he does in Hot Fuzz at each crime scene. He notices inconsistencies like the lack of skid marks at the car accident, people acting suspicious like the purple tracksuit guy stealing biscuits, and Mr. Treacher's heavy trench coat. He's not just going to gather evidence at the scene of past crimes or from the evidence locker. He's always looking for pieces of the puzzle that don't fit. Nicholas and Danny are going to go off and conduct interviews and generally pay some attention to what's happening. The notebook will come in handy here. If he had to issue any warnings, and he will, it's a chance to get people unsettled and more likely for their composure to slip. That's one way to get information about what's going on. Another is to just be generally interested and ask questions, as Nicholas does with Cousin Leslie to find out about the bypass and those Buford Abbey scum. Nicholas does all this while being gaslighted? Gaslit?
I think it's gaslit.
I think it's
Okay.
gaslot.
Oh.
Okay, by everyone in Sanford. And while everyone in Sanford is being gaslitten by the Neighborhood Watch Association. And don't think that Danny won't be following along and getting to the bottom of this. You saw Danny interrogate Nicholas about all the ways he has or has not shot a gun. And by the end of the film, Danny has made clear progress in his procedural knowledge and his athleticism, if the jump in front of the bullet is anything to go by. Do we even need to talk about fighting? Okay, so here's what Hot Fuzz will do. 1, they'll actually prepare and put on the appropriate safety gear and have extra weapons on hand. 2, no, Team Rush Hour won't beat them to the lair of Dr. Lobotomy because they always go into a place in plainclothes, get fucking chased out and shot at, go do some other random B-plot shenanigans, get kidnapped, ambushed, or both, and then finally get it together enough to take on the big bad. Danny and Nicholas didn't waste valuable time playing James Bond or hiding information from one another like the other team. You know that they went to the beach for exactly 10 minutes. While there, they smiled at one attractive person and then kept working on the case. Danny wanted to stay for 20 minutes, but he was already getting a bit sunburned and Nicholas said they could come back after the case. 3, when it comes to proper action and shit, they can take out multiple gun users and they were not even sure what kind of weapons these people had. They take on multiple barricaded enemies, wrestle guns away from enemies. Nicholas uses hand-to-hand combat and they both use improvisational tactics like car doors, jars of jam, shopping carts, and the unstoppable cuddly monkey. Pursuit and arresting the baddies is where they excel. High-speed car chase in narrow and uneven country lanes. Check. Jumping into a dumpster to more quickly pursue a suspect. Check. Shooting while driving a car, check. They bring in every single suspect alive and able to be processed. We do not ever see the Rush Hour team arrest and bring anyone to the station. We have proof that Nicholas and Danny and a very small team of other officers arrested and processed a dozen suspects from a single case. Nicholas has an arrest record that's 400% higher than any other officer in all of the Metropolitan Police Force. That says that Nicholas starts what he finishes, and Danny is following closely in those footsteps. And if you think for 1 second that this Edward Wright movie doesn't have the same cartoonish physics of Rush Hour, what were you watching? Nicholas runs and leaps like a blonde gazelle. The only person who can keep up with him is Simon Skinner, and only in morning jogs when he is at his strongest. Danny can leap in bullet time, and the film ends with them surviving a point-blank explosion from a sea mine. The explosion reduces the entire station to rubble, and yet Danny and Nicholas are only slightly singed. They will close this case, and then they're going to go back to that beach, have a Corona, and then go to the hotel and watch BMX Bandits and make out.
You know that scene in Hot Fuzz where Danny keeps asking Nicholas if he's seen all these famous buddy cop action movies like Lethal Weapon and Die Hard and Bad Boys 2? You know what's weird about that is that Rush Hour never comes up. Not even a mention.
There is that one Jackie Chan movie, though.
Yeah, but that's strange, right? I mean, these movies made a ton of money. They're making the 4th sequel of it next year. It's got Jackie Chan doing martial arts, so that's great. And also it's got, that scene where Carter and Lee argue about the proper way to sing War and eventually transition into a full-on friendship montage. Oh, what a great scene. Just a really
It is.
entertaining sequence of classic male bonding through the mutual exchange of cultural expression. Just fantastic. But before we get totally caught up in the breathtaking progressiveness of all this, let me just take a minute to remind you of the context in which that scene takes place. Carter and Lee have just discovered that the crime boss Jun Tao can be found at Fu Chao restaurant in Chinatown. Lee is ready to head inside, but Carter says they need to scope it out first, which is what they're supposed to be doing the whole time they're hanging out, playing with their guns, eating Chinese food, sharing tragic backstories, and of course, taking a musical dump on the legacy of Edwin Starr. At some point during all this, they notice, just from the corner of their eye, Jun Tao's henchman Sang enter the restaurant. From Sang's presence, they skillfully deduce that, this must be where Jun Tao is hiding. And they walk inside. Am I the only one who sees something wrong with this? Because they already knew that. Carter goes in first for no reason and loudly demands to see Jun Tao, claiming to be his lawyer. Now, this is basically what Carter does all the time, but watch closely and you'll notice that in this particular instance, after being led up to see Jun Tao by people who totally know he's not Jun Tao's lawyer, Carter switches undercover personas mid-undercover by saying he's Jun Tao's brother and claiming to be Blackanese. Now, at least in this case, he had the sense to understand that some part of his original plan, whatever that was, wasn't working, and tried to switch things up. I mean, give the guy a D for effort, but he still ends up getting his ass kicked and not finding Jun Tao, just like all his other so-called plans. Dan, I'm being too informal here. I should call you Your Honor, I know, but this is very personal for me.
I understand.
I want to try and express to you, with no hint of exaggeration, just how often Carter does this.
Oh, so good.
He does it in every movie, and it never works. In Rush Hour 2, he does it twice in a row. He stands on a stage in the middle of a gangster bar and asks the crowd to raise their hands if they know the head gangster. And then, after he and Lee are done barely escaping from that situation, he finds himself in the same room as the same head gangster and confronts him directly by smashing his laptop. A plan that results in Carter and Lee getting beaten, stripped naked, and left on the side of the road. I don't know what kind of soft-ass version of the triads is being portrayed in this movie, but I know Mr. Lobotomy. The man is a Smash Fiction patron, which means he has both wealth and taste. And how dare you slander his good name by suggesting that neither he nor his minions would not simply shoot Carter in the face the second he opened his big mouth. And yeah, I thought it was just Carter too, and that Lee was what passed for the competent one until I saw Rush Hour 3. In which Lee, who's looking for someone named Janvier with a connection to the mysterious Shai Shen, walks up to the bartender and says, "I'm looking for Janvier." And then when some random lady is like, "I might know where she is," he comes back with, "Who is Shai Shen?" Fuck me! The one time Carter and Lee come up with a plan that has a shred of merit, with Carter distracting security while Lee sneaks into a casino in Rush Hour 2, Lee fucks it up almost instantly by staring a security camera in the face. Even on the rare occasions when their ideas aren't fucking terrible, they can't execute them properly because they are bad at everything. Again, to be clear, I am not exaggerating. They're bad at detective work, relying on either other people or dumb luck just to figure out where the movie needs them to be next. They're bad at fighting, constantly getting their shit wrecked by common street thugs and crying for mercy in fights against nameless side characters. Even fucking Chan only ever beats up henchmen and mooks in these movies, while somehow surviving multiple instances of literally not being able to do a pull-up to save his life. They keep getting suckered in by old white dudes with British accents, brought to you by the guys who played Carmine Falcone and fucking Ming the Merciless. But they never actually arrest or kill them, they just fail intensely until they're saved by Deus Ex Pratfall. They're bad at being a team, even as late as Rush Hour 3, when they get into a hospital fight with 4 assassins that lasts at least 10 minutes longer than it should, because Carter keeps emptying his ammo clip and not hitting anything, while Lee continually fails to throw him a working gun. They lie to each other, call each other names, punch each other in the face, and shoot each other's love interests. And it never gets any better. They never learn any lessons about friendship or teamwork. They just keep finding themselves in more goddamn airplanes, trying to convince one another to stay and solve the case. Hell, they're bad at just being stable human beings. Carter is a psycho who repeatedly bluffs with the lives of innocent people and children, while Lee is an overly emotional simpleton who falls for every childish bit of deception in the known world and lets his personal feelings affect his job performance at every turn. Hey, maybe that's why nobody in law enforcement ever wants them around. Seriously, it is the single greatest wet dream of every cop or secret agent in the Rush Hour franchise for Carter and Lee to not show up at a crime scene. I don't know how many times you have to be taken off a case, deported to your home country, or demoted to directing traffic before you realize that you're not fucking wanted here. Carter and Lee are so bad at being cops that they're not even out of the airport in Paris before the French police arrest them just for showing up, beat the shit out of them, and demand that they leave the country. I don't know why the French commissioner followed that up with an anal cavity search, but the most logical explanation is that he thinks Carter and Lee are robots from the future sent to destroy human law enforcement, and maybe, if he rubbages around up there long enough, he'll get lucky and find the kill switch. You know, I think I figured out why Danny doesn't ask Nicholas if he's seen the Rush Hour movies. Because Danny hasn't seen the Rush Hour movies. Why would he? He likes movies where 2 badass cops team up to solve crimes and take down the bad guys. He's probably never even heard of Carter and Lee.
Well,
Miles, I'm so proud.
The streets of Sydney are a hotbed of chaos tonight, as every den of criminal iniquity from Botany Bay to the Featherdale Wildlife Park have been torn apart by 4 renegade cops with nothing to lose. You guys, Google Maps is a very useful resource. And now, those cops have set their sights on Sydney Tower, the location of Mr. Lobotomy's hidden base. So, let's reload and rebut. Team Rush Hour, wipe yourself off, man. You're doing rebuttals.
There you go.
Okay.
Angel gonna get distracted by side crime because he's so fucking goody-goody. Your focus hurts you, and it doesn't even help because you didn't even solve your own movie's mystery.
Yeah, he can't even walk home on his, first day in town without, arresting, 12 people, and then he spends all night doing paperwork and stuff like that. The idea that he's not going to get sidetracked is ridiculous.
We solved that
he's
shit.
not on assignment when he's doing that. When he is on assignment, we know that he gets the job done because he's the best police officer in the fucking Med.
Yeah, because he'd be arresting every kid that sips a beer.
He has the highest arrest record because he arrests everyone all the time.
They send him away because he's making them look bad.
Yeah, he does pay attention to all that stuff, and it all helps him to understand the bigger picture. Like, what's happening in a place?
Yeah.
What's happening in a place tells you some shit about that place as it turns the fuck out.
It really didn't help him out, though, as I mentioned, because of how it all just led him to jump to a bunch of bad conclusions. But anyway,
No,
my
it actually
God.
didn't, Claire, because,
What
and
the
I'll tell you why
hell?
if you want. Because what actually happens is that Nicholas Angel does take in new information, does take new perspectives into account, in fact, integrates everything he learns over the course of the movie into a perfectly reasonable set of facts that fits a certain story. As it happens, that same set of facts also fits a different story which no one in the world would have expected.
No human being would have ever thought that there was a cult of people killing people for being annoying.
you spent a lot of time talking about how Carter, just like he walks right into bad guy places, seeming to have no plan, just like, I'll just go talk to him. And like, that's basically all that he thinks about. You're like, oh, he does it so many times. He does it so many times because like, there's so many movies, but he does it like once a movie on average, maybe twice in Rush Hour 2, you're right. But you know what? Angel, who's supposed to be the competent one of you, does that same thing in your movie.
When
When he goes to arrest the neighborhood watch. He just walks in to go talk to them with no weapon and no backup. Like, I'm going to arrest 12 people by myself. Like,
Which is what's going to happen in Australia. Good luck getting
Okay.
those permits.
He does go in and do that, but he also does that because it is the end of the line. Like, he does not feel like there is another way to resolve this at this point. And so it is a last-ditch effort to
it's
do
not his
this
first
thing.
resort.
After being gaslit by everybody in this entire fucking place who refuses to acknowledge that this is happening, this is categorically not the situation that we are in. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's going, oh no, this guy doesn't exist. We lied to you about all of this.
regardless of what led up to it, the fact that he would go into that situation thinking that was a good idea just shows really poor judgment. It doesn't matter what led up to it. It was a very dumb plan. On the level of your average Carter plan, you are correct.
Okay, so if he made one mistake after realizing that he's been fucking gaslit by all these people, that he's actually right, after fighting off the fucking hound from Game of Thrones, oh no, he walks into the secret meeting of evil fucking townspeople that he didn't know existed. Like, okay, I'll give him that one mistake. This is fucking Carter's go-to.
Exactly.
This is the first thing he does.
I agree. He's our dumpus.
how come he never
But Lee
learned
does the same thing.
Okay, so yeah, Carter's gonna get them into some fun shit that Butterman's gonna wish he was in. But like, when these dudes get guns pulled on them, they fast talk, they disarm, they still kick so much fucking ass. What do your guys got?
I mean, we have not being captured all the time, which Carter and Lee categorically
See,
are.
it doesn't really matter, though, if they get captured. It matters what happens at the end of it, because you talk about, like, oh, Lee gets deceived a lot. There are multiple times in the movies where he's talking to someone who he thinks is his friend, and then they pull out a weapon and try to kill him. It happens with Ricky Tan, and it happens with that assassin lady who uses the fan in Rush Hour 3.
Oh, that
and
was
both
cool.
times, they completely have the drop on him, and he still kicks their ass in the fight. Even though they, like, pull out a weapon, try to kill him, they have the drop on him. He doesn't know what's going to happen. So basically what happens is Lee and Carter get into a situation because Carter brings them in and draws attention to them, and they get pulled in, and then they fight their way out and they kick ass, and it works 3 times in a row.
Okay.
That's
So,
called high risk, high reward.
Danny, okay, so Danny gets a gun pulled on him by his own father, which is a hell of a shock, and then wrestles that away from his father while still reeling from that fucking betrayal, where his dad threatened to kill him. And then Nicholas definitely was not expecting to have a giant man in his room and still took him out. Like, yeah, they can get surprised by things and do fine.
All right. Team Hot Fuzz. I think you would have made a great Muppet.
I've always wanted to be one.
I don't even know where to start with this. I was talking before about the fact that Angel actually does solve the crime that should have been the movie of Hot Fuzz. That's the joke of Hot Fuzz, is that he solves the right crime, but the crime is actually like this other wacky shit. I just feel like you guys are trying to make these characters appear less competent than they actually are. For example, the thing with Danny throwing the gun to take out the doctor, like, it's very clear from the cinematography that was intentional. Like, it's just
very clear.
0%.
Extremely clear.
0%.
No,
What up
100%.
until then, Danny's character has led you to believe that he's capable of that kind of thing. And how the fuck do you
he is
throw
an
a gun so
extremely
that it
competent
goes off
officer.
pointed at his foot? Like,
It tracks his eye movement, and he does this, like, you see his face make the calculation because he's looking at the foot, he's looking at the gun, he's looking at where he's throwing it. It lingers on that scene in a way that suggests, oh, something's happening.
Wait. He's a competent officer. He gets drunk and tries to drive home and almost hits Angel.
Not while
You're
on
right.
duty.
At the beginning of the movie, you are very
He's
correct.
not
He
on
did do
duty
that.
when that happens. He
That
is a
makes it
competent
okay.
police officer.
he goes bang
he's a
bang when he
competent at his
fires his
job.
gun.
You're talking about fucking Carter getting all these fucking results. The first explosive dealership meeting, he gets 2 police officers shot.
But then
'cause he's
nobody
an
died.
idiot.
Even in, like, the worst situations in Hot Fuzz, they resolve so much more quickly than the situations in Rush Hour. Like, being held up at gunpoint necessitates 30 seconds of effort to put a stop to. In Rush Hour, that is a whole 5-minute set piece. It is time consuming to solve crime the way that the Rush Hour team solves crime, and it is going to seriously hurt their ability to get something done quickly.
The person who's going to take way longer is the person who, when murders happen, he goes and investigates and then files a report and then waits for another murder to happen. Not the person who goes out into, like, the criminal underworld and tries to, like, make connections and get to know people and
steal
stuff out
into
there.
places.
Claire, there's no evidence whatsoever that Nicholas Angel doesn't know how to prioritize. There's no evidence to suggest that he will do paperwork and solve mundane minor crimes when there is a larger one to be solved. In fact, I would argue that there's contrary evidence to indicate that he's extremely efficient, as opposed to somebody, 2 people I should say, who immediately get distracted by beautiful women, who immediately get distracted by their own personal feelings, who get distracted by literally everything, even in their vague attempts to be competent.
Most of the things you're talking about are only Carter, and we're not going to fight you too hard on it because he's our weak link, and that's fine.
Well,
and, like,
I'll tell you what, Danny fucking grows over the course of the movie in a way that Carter really doesn't.
Lee teaches Carter how to disarm a gun, and that's like a huge plot point.
Big fucking deal.
All that frickin' Angel teaches Butterman is you should say traffic collision instead of traffic accident. Like, that's his big
I'm
lesson.
sorry.
Like,
by the end of that movie, Butterman saves his life by jumping in front of a bullet for him, jumps in front of a fucking bomb and survives. All the stuff you were talking about with Angel not, like, knowing how to run a police force, they are in charge. At the end, it is the 2 of them. They are the guys in a fucking place where, let me remind you, there are more guns in the country than there are in the city.
And Farmer's Mom.
Yeah.
Doesn't really change the fact that they don't know how to investigate.
Yeah.
Like 2 seasoned a detective and an inspector.
I feel like
They do,
investigate
though.
is so the wrong word for what the Rush Hour people do, though. It feels like
And yet,
like weird. I mean, is this a Casanova fallacy thing? Is this what we're doing?
And yet they need their French cab driver to save their lives at the end of 3, and they fucking need just a bunch of crazy shit to happen for them to not die.
yeah,
because they make contacts, because they make
Yeah.
friends, they network. That's like
Oh
one of
my,
their strengths.
they make friends?
Yes.
yeah, dude,
I
that guy was
gun
like
to
working
his
for
head.
America.
They get allies like Isabel, who saves their life at some, because they like, yeah, that's like one of their strengths.
Yeah, what
I
friends
just
is
Oh
want
my
to
Angel?
God.
say,
I
want to
can't.
say, there's 3 movies, and they never get any better at their jobs.
They're already good enough to solve it faster than you guys will.
Okay, sure. Okay.
All right.
Whatever
well,
you say, buddy.
Well, I hate to burst everyone's bubble, but we have come to the point in the action movie script called All Hope is Lost. That's right.
Yeah.
The 2 pairs of cops were able to get to Mr. Lobotomy's lair on their own, but once all 4 of them got into the same room together, their cool was completely lost, and Lobotomy's goons were able to take them down. Now, the 2 pairs of cops have been placed in separate holding cells in Lobotomy's base, while the arch-villain decides what to do with them. Thankfully, as any good Hollywood scriptwriter knows, after the beat called All Hope is Lost comes the beat known as the Lightning Round! There's a flash of light and a crackling sound as an object comes crashing down into each of the cells containing our heroes. The smoke clears, revealing the object to be a phone booth. Stepping from it comes a middle-aged Caucasian man wearing a strange dark business suit and sunglasses. Simultaneously, he introduces himself to each of the law-enforcing pairs. His name is Rufus, and he has come from the future. It turns out that, in his timeline, bumbling buddy pairs from the past have been held up as bastions of culture, and he's come to the present to offer some aid to two of history's most important buddy pairs in their hour of need. He explains that he'll allow each of the cop pairs one round trip in his time-traveling telephone booth. They can go to any point and location in history, find one single person, and bring them back with them. This historical figure will then aid them in their last push to, once and for all, take out the dastardly Mr. Lobotomy. Oh, and even though there's technically only one phone booth, both teams will be doing their time traveling simultaneously because, well, time travel. Anyway, advocates, tell me which time period your characters travel to, which historical figure they bring back to the present with them, and how their chosen companion will help them to bring this international criminal to justice. Team Rush Hour went first in the main round, so Team Hot Fuzz will start us off in the lightning round.
All right, so I was thinking about this, and if I was in the shoes of Nicholas and Danny, I'd want to go get Winston Churchill, man.
Okay.
And, like, I just feel like he'd be a super commanding presence, and he would immediately intimidate every military force in the immediate vicinity to, like, coordinate a bomb strike, you know, on Mr. Lobotomy.
Australia's fucked. They're going to be calling.
Yeah.
He's a really, well known for just asserting his power by like taking meetings while just in a bathtub and being like, look at my balls. Suck it.
Here's how it's going to work, all right? Fucking Mr. Lobotomy is hanging out, you know, in his crib, and he gets off the phone and like turns to his henchmen and his bodyguards who are all around him. And I was like, that's weird. I just got a call that said Winston Churchill's back. And everybody is just going to be like, we're out. Peace. They're going to fucking run.
Oh my God. My nan told me stories about that man. Yeah. I'm over it.
He's just like, fucking, we will fight in your face and also in your face. and also, before he's done, he'll totally get with the girl that Carter's trying to have sex with.
Oh, almost assuredly.
Yeah, just fucking.
And also several other ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's Churchill, man. Like, and he's going to be drunk while he does it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right.
He's going to drink all Mr. Lobotomy's champagne.
That's right. In front of him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's excellent. All right. Team Rush Hour, what do you guys have?
So I was trying to think about it. Most of the ones I thought of were like people from movies. And then I remember that one of the ones I was thinking of from a movie is also a real person. So I can use that one. So I decided to use Ip Man or Ip Man or however it's pronounced. I'm not sure. So he is one of the most famous like martial artists of all time. He was the guy who trained Bruce Lee. He was a police officer in China. And also during the like Japanese occupation of China, they were going to bring him in to train Japanese troops because they knew how good of a martial artist he was. And he refused. Now, here's the part where I don't know exactly how much of this is real and how much of this is the movie, but he ends up like challenging like the leader of the Japanese army to a duel, like one of their generals, and he like basically defeats him in a martial arts duel in front of all of his men.
That sounds like it definitely really happened.
So he's a cop and he's a super good martial artist and trained the actual Bruce Lee. So that's the guy I want to bring in.
I think Carter needs that little extra boost. He's already taken out 6 dudes by himself. So, you know, think about how fucking confident he'll be after this.
Oh my God. I'm going to drink acid.
One day we'll get Carter, like, beyond angel level. Can you fucking imagine that, Miles?
No, please.
I'm gonna hold on. There's glass right here. I'm going to break it.
They originally tried Joan of Arc, but she was having none of Carter's shit. So.
Yeah.
I had considered
Strap headphones cord around my head.
I had considered Empress Wu Zetian. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but she was the only empress of China. She's believed to have gotten there like from really shady means. She was very, very smart. I mean, look, Lee and Carter are already willing to bend the laws and work with shady people. So I think, are we allowed to take 2 people back? We're going to take 2 people back. Fuck your rules.
Because we don't follow the rules. We're loose cannons, but we get results.
So I guess the other person we're taking is the 6-foot-tall bouncer from like the 1800s who used to cut people's ear off and wear them as a necklace.
Okay. That's a very obscure reference to drop right at the end of the lightning round.
It is.
We're also
All
taking
right.
Chan Wang from Shanghai Noon. Now we have
All right.
2 Jackie Chans.
All right. I regret ever giving you guys a time machine, which I feel like now that I'm saying it aloud, in retrospect, was a very blatantly bad idea.
We used the time machine to change the rules of the lightning round, so now we get infinity people from the past.
All right.
I'm going to use the time machine to go back and assassinate Brett Ratner.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
All right, before we get
That's
too
a
deep
good
into
segue.
Judge's deliberation stuff, in the deepest part of his secret headquarters, Mr. Lobotomy scans the wall of monitors before him, each of which displays room after room of unconscious henchmen. Lobotomy realizes that he has no one left to protect him. He hears the door open behind him, a pair of footsteps enter, and he turns to see, insert winning team here. Oh, I guess I have to figure out who the winning team is. Right, I'll be back.
So Miles, do you have some thoughts about these movies that we watched?
I have some thoughts.
Okay, interesting.
I really do.
Go for it.
I don't know. I might have yelled enough on this episode already, but
I'm like, do we even want to keep talking about it? It
Guys,
just hurts so much.
Yeah.
Rush Hour 2 was my least favorite movie for
Really?
about 24 hours until I saw Rush Hour 3.
Yeah, I agree.
I-
They should never have been made.
I just didn't know I was gonna be so upset. Like, I was not expecting to be so wounded by a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And kid, I'm sorry, the first one's not good.
The first one's really fun. It's really, really fun. And like, I went in thinking like, okay, let's see if this holds up, because I know young kid didn't know shit about movies. But this is really fun.
I can't.
I will admit, I really did enjoy the first one. I thought it was very good. The second one was one of the first movies that we bought on DVD when we had like 5 DVDs. So I watched like 1,000 times when I was like, 12 or whatever. We just like bought like a bunch of random DVDs.
Oh.
And we had like that and Miss Congeniality and The Mask and like a couple other movies. And we just watched them a million times. And so I can't even see it when I watch it. Much like Hot Fuzz, I've seen it so many times that I don't know what it is. It's just like all of the lines are in my memory. So I don't really...
Those movies made me physically nauseous.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had that experience before watching a film.
Oh.
Like, it actually made me physically affected.
That's how I feel when I watch Sucker Punch. So
Well, if you feel that way about Sucker Punch and not about fucking Rush Hour 2, then I don't know what to tell you.
we're not talking about Sucker Punch again. I've talked about Sucker Punch enough. I am on record with my feelings about Sucker Punch. I could get into it right now.
If you would like to hear them talk about Sucker Punch, just donate $1 and
For a
you
fucking
Oh my
hour and a
god,
half.
it's just be a dollar
you
patron.
can't turn off. You can't
Sorry,
turn
Claire.
off.
Claire was going to talk about Rush Hour 3, and I want
was
to hear
going
it.
to. The worst things about these movies is Carter. And
Yeah.
the first two, he kind of rides the line between being sort of like a lovable skirt chaser who's ultimately redeemable and being an actual like bad person. Like, he's kind of on the line in the first two movies.
He dares them to blow up a child
And then
in the first movie.
Because they ain't going to do it around them. They're not going to kill themselves.
It's
shitty.
In the third one, though, he like crosses the line into just being an unrepentant like monster
my
the entire time. With, like, handcuffing
Multiple
women
times.
and forcing them into going on dates with him. And we're not going to talk about the completely unnecessary transphobia.
I'm so mad that the writers of 2 and 3 just like didn't know what else to do with him, so they like turned him up even worse.
It's the Flandersation where you have to like keep upping the stakes or whatever, and it's like
it's just like, no, if that's what you had to do, you shouldn't have made 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's really weird that there's one movie that has pretty much all of the main characters who are good people are people of color, and they have this recurring thing of the bad guy is always the rich white guy, and pretty much the only like white main characters are bad people or like the incompetent police captains who won't let them do their job.
Yeah.
And then
Number 2, the bad guy's a Chinese guy, but yeah.
And then we have Hot Fuzz, which is all white people, and then there's like the one woman character who the joke is that she's the butt of the joke because she's a woman in a self-aware way, but you also don't have other good female characters, so that only gets you so many points,
You know the story about how Hot Fuzz, how they had a romantic lead for Angel and scrapped her.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Well, that would've
They
made
they gave all her lines to fucking Nick Frost.
Yeah,
I don't think that would have made it better, but just like, cool lady.
Oh no, I liked that they give all the lines to Nick Frost because they're together.
You guys want to hear something super fucking depressing?
What's that?
No.
Were any of you guys looking forward to the Lion King live action movie?
Oh,
Why is it not happening or what?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's happening. It's being written by the same guy that wrote Rush Hour 2 and 3.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
What? How did that happen?
He also wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
How is this Disney? What the fuck?
Writing a movie shouldn't get you points if it's not a good movie.
They made so much money, man. Do you know how much money the Rush Hour movies made? I looked this up.
They made a bit more this week because we just friggin' paid for them all over again to have to watch it for this match.
No, but just I mean in terms of like domestic box office. So if you go to like Box Office Mojo and you look at domestic box office for martial arts action movies, they're 3 of the top 4. And if you look at the top domestic gross for buddy cop movies, they're all in the top 10.
Wow.
So what you're saying is we need to get Brett Ratner to become a patron. Is that what you're
Ew.
saying, Miles? Your
Brett
words, sir.
Ratner is a piece of shit, and it made so
I
much
would
sense to me that he directed these.
rather die.
Yeah, I would not take Brett Ratner's money.
All right. Well, we've
I
established
will
that.
take Timothy Dalton's $1 though.
This is the worst thing I've ever had to research for this podcast.
All right. Well,
Wow.
this was extremely difficult for me to figure out. You know, I had said in the last episode I judged Maui versus Hercules that like I was really impressed by how much each of the teams found the flaws in the other characters. And as impressed as I was with that aspect of that match, I am an order of magnitude more impressed with that same aspect for this match. Like, you guys came at this from such creative and, particularly in the case of Miles, passionate angles.
Yeah.
And
He's a man of passionate angles.
yeah, he's angled and he's passionate. Like,
I warned you the hot takes were coming on this
There was,
Yeah,
a
man.
lot there was a lot of anger there. Yeah.
I wasn't anticipating this being as difficult and nuanced to figure out as it ended up being. You know, as I was watching these movies, I was just sort of like evaluating the characters on a very basic level. But you guys pointed out a lot of aspects of those characters that I hadn't thought of and really brought to light a lot of ways in which their characteristics would sort of intersect with each other and with this scenario that we had laid out. And so I was really forced to look at all of these characters through fresh eyes. And if I was able to break the rules of the podcast, which for this match, I'm like 20% tempted to do, to be honest.
Jeez, and you don't go that high in percentages usually.
I do not. I am very much a Nicholas Angel when it comes to abiding by the rules of Smash Fiction. If it were up to me, I would say that the winner of this match is the brand new team of Nicholas Angel and Lee, who are the competent, well put together ones who decide to leave their respective dumpuses in the dust and then take down Mr. Lobotomy.
Don't you do that
together.
to Danny. He's a sweet boy.
Danny's sweet. He's not winning any awards, aside from maybe close-up, ketchup-based magic. But because I am a rule-following Nicholas Angel at heart, I have to choose one of the two teams that was brought before me and not cobble together a team that I would prefer to rule in favor of. And I think that that team has to be Rush Hour. So,
Oh my god!
I'm kind of not happy about it, but great.
Oh my
Claire,
god.
is this how it felt when Blades of Glory won?
This is how it felt when Blades of Glory won. We're bad people.
I feel like I'm in a cult robe and doing
So-
dark magic.
So, you know...
Oh my
you know that
god, you
part-
guys, I'm so sorry.
You know that part in Kill Bill where Bill is talking to Bud? And Bud says to Bill, she deserves her revenge, and we deserve to die. That's how I feel.
Oh god.
I don't know why I keep getting put in the position of
Miles,
ruling in favor of the
Miles.
objectively worst person.
Do you have a samurai sword?
So there you go, and I'm sorry, but you guys all did great, and I'm very proud of all of you. So I see Miles has killed himself already, so you will be missed.
Bye, Miles.
Bye.
All right, let's move away from this verdict as quickly as possible, please.
In the arms of the angels, it is time. It's time we mourn Miles and then move on to the kid things. So back in the day when Claire and Miles didn't hate each other, they were on a little podcast called Geek Wars.
We were our own buddy cop duo.
Yes. And then dark things happened. The second episode where they appear is on. That episode of Geek Wars is very tense. You know, I'm not going to say how anyone does, but it is extremely fun to listen to. So you should go check out Geek Wars.
Yes, Season 2, Episode 7, entitled Peck the Deck.
Oh, yeah.
A title which was brought about due to our very own Mr. Schneiderman.
All right, over to Twitter. Thank you to Decade Fan, Robert Ramsey, Cosplay Devotee, Hayden, Geek Wars, Vander Turner, Jake the Deflate Snake, Make Cake Late. Oh, poor Cake. Meowingly, also known as Mintiest of Eggs. It just felt like pointing that out this time.
All right.
Really good Twitter names.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Rafael Medina, Duffy, Matias Tatimes, Dandy Kid Boy. Why does that one twist me up more than Jake's stuff? Vladimir Duran, Florian, Dark Cosplay Fiend. Yeah, it's that arc. Jeffrey Ketchum, and Sean Boyd. Over to Tumbles. Thank you to Jeep Rhyme, The Cracked Crack Child. Crake? I don't know. Meowingly, Forte Joestar, Sid Rabbit Blog, Fat Blunt 69.
Fat Blunt 69, since Miles is not doing that because he's
Not doing anything.
Changing Shades, Ink the Cryptid, and Secretly a Skeleton. Shh.
Facebook? Okay, all right.
Over to Facebook. Thank you to Matias Tatimes. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. You're all so great.
Yeah.
Now we all need you to do a ritual to bring back Miles.
Well, while you're doing that, we also wanted to thank Mr. Lobotomy, our criminal mastermind / patron over at patreon.com.
That's actually his name on Patreon.
It is his name on Patreon, so of course, name like that, you gotta become a supervillain. But you too could become a supervillain or any number of other wild and crazy characters we end up casting you as in our storyline by kicking in as little as $1 each month. You get bonus content. At certain tiers, you get to vote on matches that we do or on other bonus content that we do. Sometimes you even get to dictate a match if you give us enough money. So it's just wonders abound over at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. We also wanted specifically to thank Molly Hayes Hernandez, a fan of ours who actually recommended the Nico versus Zatanna match.
Yeah.
Thank you, Molly.
Sorry, we forgot.
Yes.
We're horrible, but thank you so much. And if you're still the one that's updating the TV tropes page, is that correct, Dan?
She was the one who emailed us about starting it. I don't know if she's still updating it.
If that's you, look, it's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for working
The
on
Lord's
it.
work.
That TV tropes page of ours is real good. And because we still have a gigantic mailbag to get through from our recent 3rd anniversary episode, I would like to read this one out from Viola Sanderlin, who asks, I am rationing out the back catalog and finally got around to the 1st anniversary episode, and the question was, what do you do for a living? It got me wondering, where are they now? I am still in the same job as I was doing back in the 1st anniversary episode. I have an office job where I do accounting and engineering work.
Yeah, but you get to work from home, and that's fucking
I do get to work from home now. Yeah. It's very good.
It's so good.
And Kit, you've had a good development, right?
Yes, all my fucking working for free has paid off, and now I'm an actual paid zookeeper.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay!
I get to help teach kids how great animal is.
The animal is.
Yeah, I'm so good at it. I'm not teaching them grammar, that's for sure.
Megan Bob, you weren't with us for our 1st anniversary episode, but I know you've mentioned on the show at various points about what it is that you do. Do you want to talk about that at all?
I teach college people to write stuff. And then sometimes I teach them how to read stuff that they don't normally read, like comic books or stuff.
Nice.
You're the coolest teacher.
I got a dumb day job that I don't care about, and whatever. I do fun things on the internet, and that's what I care about.
So 1st anniversary, I think I was still working childcare.
Oh, yeah.
I don't do that anymore. Now I am completely freelance in my media work. I do a lot of writing, a lot of editing, website work, podcast work, whatever anyone needs me to do. If you're interested in more about what I actually do with my time, then you can check out the Unspoiled Dark Tower podcast, really any of those family of podcasts. You can check out the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, which I host and produce. You can check out yesmagazine.org, where I have frequently and most recently been published. You can check out my blog, which has recently expanded to include a number of subjects. I mean, right now it's mainly about science fiction and pro wrestling, so if that fits your particular Venn diagram, then go to Universes of the Mind. universesofthemind.com, and links to all of this can be found on my personal website, www.mjschneiderman.com.
Listeners, Miles' writing is so good.
It's very good.
It is.
And finally, we have a new iTunes review to share in. This one comes to us from, I'm going to guess it is El Jefe Tacoma. I am guessing because it's all one word with no spaces, so I'm arbitrarily placing spaces where I feel like it makes sense. Their review is titled, I love it all, but mostly love Extraordinary League. They give us 5 stars, and the review goes, These guys are so great, the whole gang. Smart, woke, friendly, love flowing all over. These clowns love pop culture and they have very strong opinions.
Yeah.
Mostly, though, I just love Extraordinary League. Hands down the most exciting and well-acted play podcast in the business. I should know,
Oh, man.
because I host the second and third, parentheses, totally unbiased reporting. And after a little bit of internet research, I believe this would be the host of the Shattered Worlds podcast. Which is an RPG podcast, so...
Oh, is it Jeff?
I believe so, yes, after a very cursory amount of Googling.
Jeff, Hef, I get it.
Yes.
We're such investigators.
Oh my god.
We've all gained such good detective skills from doing the research for this match.
That's right. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we are coming out with the 32nd episode of Extraordinary League. And then the match after that is going to be Milo and Otis versus the Pets from Homeward Bound. Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
That was my nickname back in college. Claire, the argumentative turducken Mulcairn.
So this is the part where you would normally be expecting another funny outtake or blooper reel clip, right? It's what we do here. It's all fun and games. It's all fun and games at the end of this podcast, isn't it? Well, you know what? Not this time. You don't get it this time. This podcast doesn't deserve a blooper reel this week. So now,